The small town of Willow Creek was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else. Dusty streets stretched between wooden houses, a general store, and a modest church. Life moved slowly, and the townspeople took comfort in its simplicity. Among them, Abigail was the jewel of Willow Creek. She was young, kind, and known for her beauty. Her hair shone like sunlight on wheat, and her eyes held a warmth that drew people in. Everyone respected her gentle heart and her helpful nature. And she spent her days working on her family's ranch, caring for animals, and assisting her neighbors whenever she could. One late afternoon, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, a stranger rode into town. Dust swirled around his boots, and the jingling of spurs announced his arrival. He wore a worn leather hat tilted just enough to hide his eyes, a long coat that had seen better days, and boots that bore the marks of 1,000 miles. People stopped and stared. He was unlike anyone they had seen before, mysterious, confident, and bold. Abigail happened to be at the edge of town, gathering water from the well, when she noticed him. Her heart gave a small, startled jump. There was something about him, a kind of magnetism she could not explain. As he dismounted his horse, he gave a charming, easy smile, the kind that made people feel like they had known him forever. "Hello there," he said, tipping his hat. "Name's Cole. Just passing through." Abigail curtsied politely, a little shy, and introduced herself. "I'm Abigail. Welcome to Willow Creek." Cole's eyes sparkled. "Willow Creek, huh? Quiet place. But it looks like it's got its own kind of charm." He paused, looking around with a casual air, yet his gaze returned to her. "And you must be the heart of this town." Abigail felt her cheeks warm. Compliments were nothing new, but there was something in his voice, something sincere yet playful, that made her pulse quicken. She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You're just saying that." "I don't say things I don't mean," he replied, his grin widening. Over the next few days, Cole lingered in Willow Creek. He helped at the general store, repaired fences, and even assisted the sheriff with small tasks, earning the trust of the townsfolk. All the while, he paid special attention to Abigail. He would leave small gifts, a wildflower he picked by the river, a smooth stone with an unusual pattern, a feather from some far-off bird, and always had a story to go with it. Every tale was about adventure, excitement, or distant lands he had supposedly visited. He spoke of mountains that touched the clouds, rivers wider than the town itself, and sunsets so bright they could blind a man if he stared too long. Abigail listened, enraptured. She had never left Willow Creek, had never ventured beyond the familiar hills and streams, and every story he told opened a new world for her imagination. She found herself looking forward to his visits, thinking about him when she worked, and imagining what it would be like to see the places he described. The town's elders noticed the growing closeness between Abigail and the stranger. Mrs. Harper, who ran the bakery, warned her, "Abigail, be careful. Strange men passing through can't always be trusted. Outlaws come and go. They take what they want and leave." Abigail waved her hand gently. "I appreciate your concern, Mrs. Harper, but he seems different. He's kind and respectful. He wouldn't hurt anyone." Mr. Dawson, the blacksmith, shook his head. "Young lady, remember that a smooth tongue can hide a sharp dagger. Not everyone wears their heart on their sleeve. Also, alibi debility. But Abigail smiled politely and carried on. Deep down, she wanted to believe in him. She wanted to trust that someone could bring excitement and love into her life beyond the quiet routines of the town. Cole seemed to sense her thoughts. One evening, as the sun sank low and the air smelled of sagebrush and dust, he invited her to ride along the riverbank. The sky was painted with brilliant oranges and purples, and the river sparkled like a ribbon of silver. As they rode side by side, He told her a story about a canyon filled with glowing stones. So bright, it was said to light up the night sky, like stars falling to earth. "You'd like it," he said softly, glancing at her. "It's dangerous in some ways, but also beautiful, just like life should be." Abigail's heart raced. The world he described seemed impossible, yet she wanted to see it. She wanted to follow him anywhere. The thrill of adventure, the promise of new experiences, made her pulse quicken. For the first time, she felt like there was more to life than the small town she had always known. Days turned into weeks. Cole's charm never faltered. He remembered small details about her life, listened to her dreams, and shared his own tales with such passion that it seemed impossible they were lies. Abigail began to imagine a life with him, traveling, exploring, and escaping the limitations of Willow Creek. She even started to imagine a future beyond her family's ranch. A life shaped by adventure and love. Yet, not everyone was convinced. Some townsfolk whispered among themselves. They saw the way he disappeared for days, returned with odd packages, and never spoke much of his past. Abigail's friends warned her too. "He's hiding something, Abby. Be careful," one said. But Abigail's heart refused to listen. Every doubt faded when he smiled at her, when he held her hand during the sunset rides, or when he whispered, "You make me feel at home, no matter where I am." One late night, sitting by the fire at her family's ranch, she watched the flames dance. Cole had stayed nearby, pretending to repair fences while she worked, and he had told her another story about a desert that shimmered like gold in the moonlight. She felt an intense mix of excitement and longing. She thought about how she might leave Willow Creek, how she might escape the ordinary and embrace a life of adventure with him. Her family noticed the way she looked at him, the sparkle in her eyes, and the way she lingered in his presence. They warned her gently, trying not to frighten her but hoping she would see reason. Abigail listened, but each warning felt like a shadow over the bright light of hope she felt in her heart. Then came the day that changed everything. Cole approached her, his tone serious yet soft. "Abby," he said, using the nickname he had created for her, "I can't stay here forever. The road calls me, and I need you to come with me. I can't imagine doing this without you." Abigail's breath caught. Her heart pounded in her chest. Every tale he had told, every adventure he had promised, all seemed to lead to this moment. She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth, and found only warmth and longing. I'll go," she whispered, almost afraid to speak. Cole smiled, a mix of triumph and relief on his face. That night, Abigail barely slept. She thought of the life waiting beyond the hills, the excitement, the romance, and the adventure. She imagined the stories she would tell, the places she would see, and the freedom she would feel. Nothing in Willow Creek could compare to the possibilities that lay ahead. As the stars twinkled above and the wind whispered through the trees, Abigail made her decision. She trusted him completely, believing in the honesty of his heart and the sincerity of his promises. Little did she know, the road ahead would test her trust, her courage, and her heart in ways she could never have imagined. The town slept unaware, and the quiet streets of Willow Creek held their secrets close. Abigail was about to step into a world full of danger, deception, and heartbreak. Though in this moment, she could only feel hope and excitement. Tomorrow, her life would change forever. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Willow Creek, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. Abigail was ready. Her heart pounded with excitement and nervous anticipation. Today, she would leave the life she had always known behind. She had packed a small bag with necessities, a few clothes, some food, and a notebook filled with her thoughts and dreams. She glanced around her family's modest ranch one last time, trying to memorize every detail, every corner that had shaped her life. Cole waited by his horse, his hat tilted just enough to hide his eyes, his long coat brushing against the saddle. When he saw Abigail approaching, he gave her that same confident, easy smile. "You're ready," he said, voice low and warm. Abigail nodded. "I'm ready." They mounted their horses and rode out of town together. For a while, the ride was perfect. The morning air was crisp and fresh, the horses' hooves kicking up clouds of dust as they galloped along the trail. Cole pointed out landmarks, told stories of far-off lands, and laughed with her as they shared jokes. Abigail felt free in a way she had never experienced. The wind in her hair and the sun on her face making the world seem endless. But as the day wore on, subtle signs began to appear. Cole took routes that avoided other travelers, and sometimes he would vanish behind the trees for hours, returning with a casual explanation that made little sense. Abigail's heart sank a little each time, but she tried to ignore it. She told herself he had reasons she could not understand, that he was still the same charming man she had trusted. By the third day, the ride began to feel different. The air was hotter, heavier, and the paths rougher. They passed through narrow canyons and dry riverbeds, places that seemed isolated and dangerous. Cole rode ahead sometimes, and Abigail noticed the way he glanced back at her with a careful, measured look, almost as if he were checking her reactions. One evening, they made camp near a small creek. Cole built a fire while Abigail tended to the horses. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in shades of deep purple and silver. Cole told another story, this time about a hidden valley filled with treasures, where no one dared to go for fear of bandits and wild animals. "You'll see it someday," he said softly, staring into the fire. "It's real. I promise." Abigail wanted to believe him more than anything. Her heart ached with longing for the adventure he promised, for the freedom of a life beyond Willow Creek. Yet, deep down, a small voice whispered doubt, a warning she tried to silence. The next morning, her doubts could no longer be ignored. While Cole slept, she decided to explore the area around their camp. She noticed tracks leading away from the creek, unusual and unfamiliar. Following them cautiously, she stumbled upon a small clearing where Cole had met other strangers the night before. They spoke in hushed tones, passing him small bags and envelopes. Abigail's heart tightened. Something wasn't right. She waited until Cole returned. "Where were you?" she asked lightly, trying to mask her growing suspicion. "Just checking the trail ahead," he said casually. "Nothing to worry about." Abigail forced a smile, but unease gnawed at her. That night, as they camped under the stars, she kept thinking about what she had seen. She wanted to trust him, to believe in the life they had imagined together. But a part of her refused to ignore the truth. By the fifth day, the signs were undeniable. Money she had brought with her, carefully saved, was missing. Small gifts and supplies had vanished. When she confronted him, Cole laughed lightly. "Adventure costs money, Abby. Don't worry. It's all part of the journey." But Abigail's heart no longer felt light. She began to notice inconsistencies in his stories, places he claimed to have visited that didn't exist, people he mentioned who seemed impossible to verify. Her dreams of adventure began to clash with the reality before her eyes. One night, unable to sleep, she decided to search Cole's belongings while he slept. The fire crackled softly, casting shadows on the ground. Her hands shook as she opened a small satchel he carried. Inside, she found letters, maps, and notes that revealed the truth. Cole was not the adventurous, honest man he claimed to be. He was a wanted outlaw, known in towns far and wide for deceiving people, stealing from them, and disappearing without a trace. Abigail's heart raced. She felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and fear. Every gift he had given, every sweet word he had whispered, had been a lie. He had used her trust, her kindness, and her love as a tool to carry out his schemes. Her mind raced with questions. How could she have been so blind? How could she have trusted him so completely? When Cole awoke, Abigail confronted him. "Who are you, really?" she demanded, her voice trembling but strong. "Why did you lie to me?" Cole tried to charm her again, his confident smile in place. "Abby, you don't understand. I did what I had to do. I never wanted to hurt you. Abigail shook her head. "All your words, all your stories. They were lies. You deceived me, and I trusted you." Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. The outlaw tried to explain, to soften the truth, but Abigail would not listen. She realized that trusting him any longer would only put her in danger. Using the knowledge of the land she had learned from years on her family's ranch, she made a plan. While he was distracted, she untied the horses, guiding them silently away from the camp. Cole noticed too late, his shouts echoing through the canyon as Abigail rode off with determination and courage. The journey back was long and exhausting, but Abigail felt a new strength within her. Every mile brought her closer to Willow Creek, closer to the life she had temporarily left behind. Along the way, she reflected on her mistakes, her trust, and the lessons she had learned. She realized that while the world held adventure, it also required caution, patience, and discernment. When she finally returned to Willow Creek, the town was still quiet, the streets as dusty as ever. Her family rushed to greet her, relief and worry etched on their faces. Abigail embraced them, feeling the warmth of home in a way she had never appreciated before. The town listened in awe as she recounted her story, not as a tale of romance or adventure, but as a story of courage, wisdom, and resilience. The town praised her bravery. Abigail had not only survived the deception of an outlaw, but had also outsmarted him, reclaiming her life and dignity. She had been tested and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. While her heart had been wounded, she carried with her a new understanding of trust, love, and the importance of looking beyond appearances. In the months that followed, Abigail returned to her routine on the ranch, but she was no longer the same girl who had once longed to leave Willow Creek. She had faced the unknown, learned harsh truths, and survived. The townspeople continued to watch her with admiration, recognizing her as a young woman of courage and intelligence, someone who could face deception and danger with both wisdom and bravery. Abigail never forgot Cole, the outlaw who had deceived her. But instead of bitterness, she felt a quiet strength. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she had proven that she could meet them head-on. The adventures she had dreamed of were still out there, waiting. But now she would approach them with eyes wide open and a heart tempered by experience. As the sun set over Willow Creek, Abigail stood on a hill overlooking the town. The wind rustled her hair, carrying the scent of sagebrush and earth. She smiled softly, not at the promise of adventure or excitement, but at the promise of herself. She had learned the greatest lesson of all. Courage, wisdom, and resilience were stronger than charm, lies, and deceit. And with that knowledge, she knew she could face anything life had to offer.